as you were saying, we have a limited time here on this earth. One of the things that we have been gifted is our body.
Yeah, we have one body.
We have one body that we've been gifted, and after that, we'll have a spiritual body. That's what me and you believe. That's kind of what it hints at. We don't know all the details about it, but we know that we have this one physical body, and it's another thing that we have to take care of. And I feel like it's a bit of a thing that's not seen by churchgoers, to be honest. Like it's actually a sin. Like gluttony is a sin, and I feel really weird saying it. But I'm just going to put it out there. Like God demands a certain level of discipline at every level of our lives. Yeah. And I actually think that physically, it's a part of that. It's another thing that's given by the Lord.
And some people will probably take, there is a passage of the Bible that talks about bodily exercise or whatever, however it's worded, profiteth little, and then it goes into the spiritual stuff. And certainly there is a place, and relative to spiritual growth, there is a difference, but it doesn't mean that, working your body out is completely not important at all. I think the opposite is just not acceptable in terms of getting yourself so out of shape. And it really does affect your life and how you live. It affects how you sleep. It affects how you can use your life positively to whatever you want to achieve out of life, spread positivity to others and be productive and that sort of thing. Your body's going to be a part of it. I mean, to the point where I've been so big recently, it's affected my sleep. And it's just not a good thing because you're not going to help anyone. Don't know if people do it, but at least we're stopping it now. We are putting a stop to that trend. Absolutely. In a month's time. So it is JD and I, but obviously a very different looking, you'll have to look past all the the definition and the sinews sort of showing everything. It's just look past all of that. And all the cut, looking really vascular and everything.
Just vascular.
Yeah. And the faces will be different. Clearly we'll have actual cheekbones.
Dude, what are you talking about? Stop raising unexpected expectations.
And if
unrealistic expectations.
And if we're like, if we're able to set aside a number of the modelling offers that come along, we will continue this podcast. We'll try to prioritise this podcast. I
thought I was really going to take off into my modelling career.
You probably have you already got contracts you haven't told us about? I mean, I'm not even...
It's on the low. It's on the low. Well, just to get back to something serious for a second, I've just pulled up
spiritual.
Yeah. Me and my mate we were on the phone, and you know how like sometimes you just feel a bit lost in life, and you're like, what am I doing right now? Where am I going? What direction am I? And I even had my whiteboard in front of me. And I was like, what are my convictions? Because I feel like a lot of the time, when you don't have things outlined, when you don't define things, you just float in this space where you could literally end up doing anything. You
just
could,
completely
right?
Not intentional.
You're like what is it, like a ship that has no port, or a ship that has no rudder ends up at any port.
Sense. Yes.
Ends up at any port, whatever.
Yes.
So you could end up at a port, and 20, 30 years...
Where am I?
20, 30 years later, you're like, man, if I just set some boundaries for myself, if I just got some discipline in my life, I could have avoided this. And the example of Daniel, we're just looking here, we'll put it up on the screen. Daniel chapter 1. So like right
this
now...
is in the Bible.
This is in the Bible, Daniel chapter 1. Nebuchadnezzar, the
king
king
of
of Babylon, came
yeah.
in and just decimated Israel or Judah. And they just took their people into exile. And what it actually says here is, it says the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility. So we know Daniel and his friends are from the royal family or from some sort of nobility. And it says young men without any physical defect, handsome.
We probably would have. I mean, you would have been taken, but
Dude, yeah, you might not have made it.
Yeah. I would have been like, hey guys, I got it from here. I'll watch the fort. I'm staying back. You guys go on. Enjoy Babylon.
Said handsome. How funny is it?
Yeah.
Handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning. So brains and brawn.
Yeah.
Well informed, quick to understand, qualified to serve in the king's palace. And they were to teach him the language and literature of the Babylonians. And the king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. So these guys are in this really weird position where their homeland's been taken over, And now they've been cherry-picked by the king and given food from their, the people who have colonized them, essentially.
Wow.
And so they're getting treated really well. Getting food from the king's table. But then it says, Daniel resolved not to defile himself. And he actually told the guard, he said, why don't you give us just vegetables and water, and everybody eat and drink everything from the king's table or whatever. You guys can do that, but we're not going to do that. And see how we look after 10 days. And then it says after 10 days, they looked better than everyone.
Oh my goodness.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Appearance.
Wow. That's 10 days. That's not a month. That's only 10 days.
Healthier and better nourished than any of the young men. So clearly to Daniel. So first, this is probably him not defiling himself with the food that's going against, like, kosher laws or whatever.
Yeah.
But this was an important example that they actually note that these men were people who were fit and who were healthy and functional. And that actually probably led into their learning and their aptitude.
Yes.
And verse 17, this is crazy. It says, to these 4 young men, God gave knowledge, understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. And Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. So that verse, right? We look at that verse and go, oh, God just literally handed them wisdom and knowledge. But it says they studied in the king's court for 3 years.
Wow.
So obviously, when we say that verse, it actually means that Shadrach, Meshach, and Belshazzar, Daniel, in the king's court, hustled, grinded for 3 years, looking up all these things, studying all these things, and at the end of it, they were able to do amazing things. And so, I don't know, I feel like maybe this is dramatized a little bit, but this is kind of where we come at it from. We're trying to enact some discipline into our life, some level of control, resolving and saying we don't need to eat that food, because success is synonymous with sacrifice, right? You got to sacrifice to be successful.
Yeah. And there is benefit to be had when you become someone that is well-rounded in different areas, intellectually, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Like, why not take care of all the different aspects of life, like have it all come together? And don't you want to be the best version of yourself, and enjoy all the fruits that come from that, from this limited time we have on earth? And you look at these guys, they were clearly, how do you call them, almost like high performers, or they're performing well in life. I mean, they are really taking care of whatever they're doing. They're excelling. They're pursuing excellence. I love that phrase, pursuing excellence. It sounds like they were, and everything they did it well. If you're going to eat well. If you're going to exercise well. If you're going to think well. If you're going to work and whatever it is you're setting your mind to, do it well.
Do it well.
Something to be said.
Do you know what? You were talking about that in the first podcast, and you were saying, like, one thing that I would say to workers is just take a moment to think about what you're doing. Just like take that second and go, what is my task here? What are my objectives? What am I trying to get at the end of it? And how do I go about it? And you just look at those few simple things and you just become 10 times the better worker.
And you will stand out. You will stand out. There's no, maybe it'll sort of help me keep pace. No. Most people are not doing this. Most people are on autopilot. They are not thinking things through. They don't really care about what they're doing. You'd be surprised how much people are dealing with and how far short of their best self they are bringing to every day. So if you do these things, you will be a standout.
I think it's like close to 90% or above of the population that just cruise through life. How crazy is that?
They make poor choices. They unnecessarily complicate their lives. They're carrying these burdens. They're just not even doing the things they know they should be doing. Be the standout. Be that rare person, because that person has opportunities come their way. People want to be around those people. People want to give opportunities to those people. They're the people that get the opportunities, that get into those rooms, that get at those tables, that get those jobs. I mean, those people have different lives.
Absolutely.
And all they did was made smart decisions about using their life well and making their life more intentional.
Absolutely. And
being better.
I think the most important area for this to go into is the spiritual life. And like everybody knows that you are the most healthy when you're spiritually healthy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what sort of like that people get wrong about religion a lot of the time. It's not like do's and don'ts, and if you believe that sort of religion, it's not going to help you, because at the end of the day, you're always going to be behind the 8 ball. You're never going to do everything perfectly. But if we're talking about an ongoing relationship, if we're talking about the continual betterment with the help of the Holy Spirit in every area of our life until we are finally conformed to the image of our greatest ideal, that's what we're on about. This journey to excellence, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole Christian journey is all about, honestly.
Being conformed to the image of Christ, who was the perfect human.
Absolutely.
He was God and man.
And for us, that journey is different to Jesus, because we sin. But we, like in this journey of weight loss and stuff like that, there's going to be times where we're tempted. There's going to be times where we fall. But if we're single-minded and we resolve and we keep heading one direction, and then if you do that in every area of your life, the ultimate thing is you become a secure person, because you know what direction you're heading towards.
Yeah.
And when you're like Daniel and you resolve and you know where you're going, no matter who the king is, Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, whoever it is, he will be known as a standout person in that society.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And he knows what he wants, and he travels in that direction. He's secure no matter what the changing situation around us, no matter what's floating around you. You're dialed in.